Eddie Howe has limited options at centre-back after Fabian Schär joined Dan Burn in the treatment room. Schär's ankle injury isn't as bad as first feared, but it may affect Howe's actions in the transfer window.
No break. We think it's just ligament damage. Be seeing a specialist in the next few days to get sort of definitive answers, but maybe more positive than the initial assessment.
Does Fabian's injury change anything regards to what you're planning to do, what you could do this month in the transfer window?
First of all, we have to get a definitive assessment on the scale of the injury and the time that he's going to be out. At the moment, we're confident Fabian will be back before the end of the season. That's sort of what the guidelines we've been given. But let's see. Then let's see with Dan and other options that we have internally before looking externally.
Joining us now is Newcastle United fan Chris Curry. OK, Chris, we'll ask you about Howe's future in a moment, but first, transfers. Do you need a defender? What else do you need?
Yeah, afternoon, guys. Or morning, sorry. I think we do need a defender, definitely. The centre-half, we used to be quite strong in that position. We had quite a lot of depth. Certainly when we signed Malik Chow, we had Chow, Botman, Schär, Burn. And then I think, obviously, the amount of football we've played, the fatigue, the injuries that have been concerned, that we are really light there now. We haven't really got any academy players to come in to play there. Lewis Miley filled in there. He seems to be able to play anywhere, that young man, to be fair. But we definitely do need a centre-half and probably some full-back cover. I think the perfect solution would be a player who can maybe do both, possibly like a Nathan Ake maybe, but Man City have got defensive problems too. So I think we are in a bit of a situation there. So yeah, 100% for me, guys, we need a defensive cover because we have got injury-prone players there too, no matter how good they are, Sven Botman, Tino Livramento, and we can't run the risk of any more injuries at the back, really.
Yeah. Chris, he's been a great signing for you, Fabian Schär, but I always feel when he goes down, and it's quite often, I always feel like sometimes he gets carried off, and I hope he's not too bad, obviously, but he seems to play the next game, so I wouldn't read too much into Fabian Schär going down injured because he does it so often.
Yeah, it's become a bit of a running joke. The Fabian Schär head injury, I think, is kind of routine in most Newcastle games now, whether you believe it's dark arts or whatever. But, I mean, that was a bad one, unfortunately, that he had the night against Leeds. And I don't think there was any malice by Calvert-Lewin. It was just two players fighting for the ball. And It's a real shame that he fell that way, because I thought he had a great game, some great tackles, and he was looking at his best. And you're right, Tim, 3 million quid he cost us. And, you know, that's one hell of a signing, really, in terms of what he's done, 250 appearances. But I think the issue is maybe, and it's maybe a little bit of a criticism, is that we've maybe relied on these players who came to us kind of in their 30s, and because they've been so good, we've maybe been a little bit complacent, not look to look at the kind of contingency plan for those players, like we've done at full-back with Livramento and Hall, you know, and obviously with Botman's injuries, that's been a real blow for us too, because the older guys have maybe played too much football, and it's possibly now, you know, fatigued them a little bit, where injuries are coming quite regularly.
Right, Eddie Howe, how concerned are you about his future? Manchester United, by the way, there's no talk that Manchester United are in for him. This is just Roy Keane. It would be his first choice. And a lot of Manchester United fans are getting in touch with us saying that he would be their first choice as well. And all season, we've been talking about England in the summer. Do you think you've got him long term?
Well, I'm not sure if we've got him long term, but I'm certainly not concerned about him going to Manchester United. I think by my count, including interim managers, I think Manchester United have had 5 managers since Eddie Howe has been at Newcastle. He's a manager who wants stability, he wants control. He actually wants to maybe be a little bit more like a throwback manager to a Ferguson or a Wenger. That's the reason where there's maybe been a little bit of friction between sporting directors and Eddie Howe over the last couple of years, because he wants to be involved in scouting and player development, academy development. And at Manchester United, it just seems to be a real toxic place now, whether you're an experienced manager with trophies in your cabinet in the shape of Van Gaal or Mourinho, whether you're a young manager coming through in the shape of Amorim, that job seems to chew you up and spit you out. And I think Manchester United still live in this kind of mindset, that they're the Manchester United that I sadly grew up hating, winning everything, you know, and they're not that team anymore. They're miles away from that. But they're ex-players like Roy Keane and alike, and brilliant players with unbelievable pedigree in the game. They still sometimes forget that Manchester United have slipped down that pecking order in terms of appeal. You know, if Eddie Howe was going to leave Newcastle for another club, you know, if it would maybe be, I don't know, a Chelsea or an Arsenal or even a club abroad. But I think England is probably the one that would concern me about Howe, because I think he's tailor-made for the England job, and I think it's the kind of manager that probably the FA would like, depending on what happens with Thomas Tuchel in the World Cup potentially.